This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings. Online at madeformorerealty.com.
So, Matt, you were giving me a bit of a hard time there on the break.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the big, beautiful bill. The president has worked really hard, and so has Congress and the Senate, trying to get it done by 4th of July.
Yeah.
And here you are on the radio just bad-mouthing him, saying it's an ugly bill. It's not a big, beautiful bill. It's a big, ugly bill.
Well, here's the thing.
I thought you were patriotic.
I am. You know, big fan of...
I thought you were a fiscally conservative individual.
Absolutely. That's the thing. You know exactly where I'm going with this. So I think there's a lot of good things in the bill, but I recently saw something that said it's supposed to increase the federal deficit by $5 trillion.
Yeah. That's right.
Why? Why is that a good thing?
Nobody said it was a good thing.
Then why is it happening? Why is the big, beautiful bill? What's so beautiful about it?
Would you rather have nothing?
What do you mean?
Well, you got to have something. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. You know, you have to negotiate a bill with a Democrat Party, too, who want to spend even more money. So you have to make compromises in order to get things done. It's not a super majority Republican House or Senate. You have Democrats that you have to speak with who are concerned about voters and
I get all that, but it's like $5 trillion. So here's what's happening. Here's how this is going to impact the real estate market. Good question. The federal fund rate, right? What that does is people are buying American debt. China is buying American debt.
Right.
Entities are buying American debt. Right now, with our credit score having been reduced, and with the proposed increase in federal debt, the outlook of the U.S. being a good place to buy debt from has gone down. And so now, even if the federal...
Scott Bessent and Donald Trump are not concerned about it, obviously.
So if the federal fund rate even does drop... So this is already happening. The federal fund rate dropped twice. The Fed dropped rates twice last year, and interest rates went up. One of the reasons why is because countries do not want to buy American debt because we're not seen as a good investment right now. Mm-hmm. So yes, you can increase the federal deficit by an additional $5 trillion, but really what you're doing is you're just making the overall problem worse. These politicians are trying to get reelected. That's what they're always trying to do. That's the number one goal.
Correct. I agree with that.
And the American public is what pays the bills. They're the ones that are left holding the bag. And the bill comes due at some point, whether it's my generation, whether it's my son's generation, the bill's going to come due, and the longer it takes to pay this bill, the heavier it gets. And so let's say the Fed does decide to drop rates at the end of July or in September. That may not include an interest rate drop, because if people aren't willing to buy federal debt, then the Fed has lost power. They're barely hanging on to control, and that can cause inflation. So if the Fed loses control, things get out of hand really quickly. And so by adding on another $5 trillion, that's just insane. Our servicing the debt is greater than our defense bill right now.
Right, correct.
I don't understand why people cannot come to a compromise and say, hey, let's balance the budget. Warren Buffett said it once, and I think so the founding fathers, they did a lot of things right, and I wish they would have done this one thing, and I hope maybe someday it'll get added in, whether it's an amendment. But what Warren Buffett says is the budget needs to be balanced with no more than a 3% increase year over year, like a 3% deficit year over year, or everybody in Congress is no longer eligible for re-election.
Wow, yeah.
Because then that solves the problem overnight. Because that's the number. I don't care who you are. Politicians care about getting elected. Trump needs to care. Trump cares about who his politicians are that are going to get reelected, because then that influences his ability to create policy. If he just does whatever he wants and doesn't care about the House or the Republicans in the House or the Republicans in the Senate, then that impedes his ability to get his stuff passed. So by just racking up another $5 trillion, adding another $5 trillion in debt, that is bad. That is bad for middle class families. That's bad for my kids. That's bad for defense. That's bad for people buying houses overall.
Yeah, the argument from President Trump and people like Scott Bessent and other conservative voices say that, this is a long process. We'll eventually get there, but you can't get everything done in one bill. And you do have many Democrats that you have to work with, you have to talk to, you have to negotiate with. I mean, look how hard it was to get this bill done.
But this is also one of the biggest pieces of legislation in history. How about you take some smaller chunks?
Okay, well, yeah, that's an idea, but still, you're still going to have, even in those small chunks, you're still going to have additions to the deficit. It's just the way it is.
So it comes down to like the idea of somebody saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm just going to always live with credit card debt." That's life.
The way our culture is, and I get that. Yeah.
And then there's the individuals who are like, "Hey, no, that is not normal. I'm not gonna."
Yeah, I know you're a big Dave
debt.
Ramsey fan.
Yeah, I'm huge Dave Ramsey fan.
The United States needs to be living off rice and beans.
I just think there's so much waste. There was a recent article that came out. They found $15 billion in payments going out in fraud. 15 with a B.
Yeah.
Like that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I think if you
have cut a lot of stuff though.
But if you were able to eliminate the fraud, increase like the money coming in.
That's only going to do so much. Elon Musk did as much as he could do with Doge. He probably could do some more, but even then, they had this lofty goal of trying to eliminate $2 trillion, and they only ended up getting half a 400 billion.
$200 billion, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you're not going to be able to find all the waste and fraud. That's not going to be the complete solution.
No. I'm not saying find all of it, but I think there's some low hanging fruit here. Like same thing with the deportations taking place. People are like, there's no way you're going to do this, and now there's been like 1 million people that have chosen to go back into their countries voluntarily. There hasn't been 1 million people deported because policy changes. And so I'm saying it doesn't take a whole lot, but everybody has to be willing to make those changes. And now,
the key word is everyone.
And
that's tough to do when you have a lot of folks that work at the Capitol who like all of the programs, and they're not concerned with having a more conservative approach to spending.
And honestly, it's like just anti-Trump. I saw this meme the other day. It's like, hey, I want to see Trump come out against the Second Amendment just to see all the Democrats talk about how they are pro the Second Amendment because he's against it.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of partisan politics going on, but this bill I do not think is going to, if it increases the deficit that much, it's gonna really hurt in the long run. There's no doubt about it. You can't increase it that much. But the good news is,
how does that affect real estate though? Tie that all into real estate.
Because the federal fund rate, people do not want to buy federal debt. They don't want to buy our debt, which is what we're doing, right?
Okay.
But for lower interest rates. So it's impossible for us to really lower those interest rates down to where the typical family can have a 5% interest rate.
President Trump has been pushing the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. He's saying that needs to lower. He's saying,
but that's my point. The Fed did reduce rates twice last year, and interest rates went up. It's not tied lockstep.
Right.
It's based off what countries and like hedge funds are willing to invest in, and they're saying because of the U.S. debt load, the U.S. is not as good as an investment.
So you think if this bill does get through the House and it finally passes and the president signs it, then it's going to negatively affect the real estate market?
I definitely do. I think it's going to
in the short term
negatively impact the federal fund, the Federal Reserve's rate control over the federal fund rate, and what that impact has on interest rates. I definitely think it's going to impact it. Now, what's short term? 6 months, 12 months? I don't know if it's going to do it that long, but in like 3 to 5, absolutely.
3 to 5 years?
Absolutely. Unless they're able to get a rein in and like this nebulous long strategy plan that the Republicans supposedly have to reduce the deficit, even though they always raise it every single year. Like, show me when they've reduced it.
Right.
Give me some proof of concept here. At what point is long enough? Has it been long enough? The last time I honestly believe that they balanced the budget was probably back when Clinton was in there. And last I checked, Clinton was not a Republican.
Have you checked with other colleagues in the real estate industry, and did they concur with what you're saying?
So, on some level, we really don't talk about it. Most realtors don't talk about this.
Right. They don't talk about the political influences in the real estate market.
And this isn't political. This is money. That's what
Right.
that's what I'm talking about is
Well,
money.
it is political, but yeah, it's all tied in, right? Everything's tied into money.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you make the U.S. a worse investment, people are not going to be willing to invest. And if they're not willing to invest, then you
Well,
can't buy
and
the
I
debt.
think President Trump over the past few months has shown that there are countries that do believe that the United States is a good investment.
So they're investing in their companies. They're bringing their and in exchange for, in many cases, weapons, right? So it's not always black. It's not always it's because the U.S. It's because they're getting something out of it. And so when you're buying U.S. debt, what are you getting out of it? What's the return on that investment? And right now, people are saying they're not interested in it. And I think the Fed is on the verge of losing control. And when the Fed loses control, that's when it really gets hard.
So President Trump was voted into office because of the economy. People vote with their wallets. They voted for him to have an impact and change inflation and have a positive impact on the economy. So is what you're saying, you don't trust the administration and how they're handling the economy then?
I don't think so. It's not, to me, it's not black or white. I'm just saying increasing the federal deficit by $5 trillion is not a good move. How is that sustainable? We're already talking about the sustainability of various programs.
And a lot of people, I think a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives understand and appreciate that purist mindset. But is it practical? Is it possible to achieve what you want to achieve when you're working with other folks? It's like you made the statement, everyone has to be on the same page, and that's just impossible. You have to be able to compromise and make little steps. And I hear what you're saying. You're saying that those little steps aren't going to get us anywhere.
I'm just curious. Just show me evidence of the little steps.
Right. I hear you. That's a good point. Yeah.
Like okay, let's do little steps. What's a little step? I don't consider $5 trillion in the wrong direction a little step in the right direction. That just seems more of the same.
I think a lot of conservatives are looking at other achievements in the big beautiful bill, though, as far as immigration and
so just pass those. Just pass those. Why does it all have to be lumped together?
I know.
Maybe this is where
then it wouldn't be big then anymore.
More my political naivety comes into play. But like, why does it have to be so big? Why can't you just pass a bill that says no tax on tips? Why can't you just pass a bill that says we'll help with IVF?
Well,
like, why can't you just do little bills like that and then just push those little ones through, and then say, hey, in order for us to get everything done, we have to reconcile the budget.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. This is probably where I'm out. But.
Well, and I think this is why it's a good idea that when are you running for office? Wait.
Never.
I will be your campaign manager.
Yeah.
I will support you in any way I can. I will put a sign in my yard, not for EXP, not for Made for More, but for Johnny Jennings, President 2028.
Yeah, that'll be the
Bringing
day.
down the deficit. Hey, promise voters, I guarantee we'll bring down the deficit in 4 years.
Well, here's the thing, too. Like, all the money that's supposedly coming in from tariffs, how's that being allocated? Is that just going to more of these pet projects, more of the things that maybe I wouldn't vote for, that maybe, a person, right, center, or left wouldn't vote for? Like, if all this money's coming in, how's that going to be allocated?
I don't know if it's that much money, because obviously he's been negotiating and having conversations and backing off to some degree on some of those.
But that's supposed to be a
billions
revenue.
of dollars, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I think that should 100% be earmarked to paying down the deficit, not going into another special project.
But how would you spin this into a positive perspective on the real estate market? I mean, yes, obviously.
Oh, I got one. I got a good one.
Okay.
We'll do it when we come back.
Nice. When times are uncertain, most people lose confidence. They feel anxious, worried, fearful, but not Johnny Jennings. In the current real estate climate, he is confident that he can sell your home faster and for more money than anyone else. And he's confident that he has all the tools and resources. They've got a great team at Made for More Realty. Maybe that's why they have over 1,000 five-star Google reviews. Yep, they're rated 5 stars on Google. Go check them out for yourself. Read some of the reviews and find out why so many people in our area trust Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty to sell their home. In fact, listen to this. Maybe you don't want to go through all the hassles of doing repairs on your home or getting it organized and staged and doing open houses. Johnny Jennings will give you at least 3 cash offers. Unlike the other guys who only give you 1, he'll give you at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition. So if you're looking looking to get the most money for your home in the shortest amount of time, just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty and get more for your home.